Hi, this is Mark Laxer,
Erica Laxer.
and we're here to discuss, and I'm going to be interviewed regarding my third book, which is called Rama, Trauma, Trump. I left the cult, and now look what happened. It's July 28th, 2020. The book just came out last week. And my daughter, Erica, who is 15 years old, just turned 15 very recently, we'll be asking a few questions, having just read the free PDF book.
Yeah. So how did you come up with the name Rama, Trauma, Trump?
Wow, that's a good question. I thought of about a zillion names, and the book is not only about Trump, so I didn't want to make it just about Trump, but he's certainly part of it, and he's a symbol of how cults can be part of not just offbeat religious sects, but society at large, like a political cult. Mm-hmm. So I wanted him in the title, and I also wanted something catchy. And Rama, trauma, it kind of rhymes. And I think if you say Rama, trauma, Trump, it kind of rolls off the tongue. Yeah. And I think the subtitle is really what says it all. I left the cult, and now look what happened. And I think that's sort of saying that I was in a cult, which is kind of taboo to say, but I'm not embarrassed. I'm kind of an open person and happy to make myself vulnerable if need be, to be honest. And I left the cult, and years later looked around at society and thought to myself, particularly recently, when I look at the President of the United States and the executive branch, I think, gosh, this looks an awful lot like the cult I was in. And I think a lot of people who have been in cults look at 2020 and say, this looks very familiar. This makes me very nervous.
Yeah. Well, in the book, you said that your rallying cry was from Kermit the Frog. Why was that the rallying cry?
Nice question, Erica. So back when I was in a meditation group, which I joined when I was just a little bit older than you, and I was very excited about it. I didn't know it was a cult. I didn't know it was a destructive cult. Actually, it wasn't. It became, over many years, more destructive. It's sort of like being in a relationship. Starts out really nice, and sometimes over time it can degrade and can get rather bumpy. So in the early years, in the group I was in, the meditation group, it was very sweet and fun and creative. And I met just the most wonderful people. And the group leader was so smart and so inspiring. People don't join cults. They join nice groups, and then they find out later on that there are more destructive elements to it once they're kind of hooked. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that hooked me was something that the group leader would talk about. The Muppet movie, first Muppet movie had just come out about that time. And Kermit the Frog was he was just a nice froggy, and he would say to Miss Piggy, I just want to make millions of people happy. So the group leader saw this movie and he thought, I'm going to use this as a symbol and teach it to the people in my group, one of whom members was me, and as a way to inspire us. Like, rather than saying, hey, join a group that will gradually become destructive, rather than that, you say to the people, we're going to help people. Mm-hmm. And who wouldn't want to join a group that's saying, let's help people? So the group leader said to us, we're going to make millions of people happy.
Mhm.
And I believed it.
Yeah. You also said that later on, when it seemed to become more destructive, Rama would like take his followers on these like drug trip things. Were you part of that? Like, did you experiment with the drugs as well?
Yes, I did. A handful of times. You don't know this about your daddy. Well, this is like put it all on the table here. Here in the third and a half week of July. So yes, the meditation teacher, whose name was Fred, but he called himself Rama, Rama, Dr. Frederick Lenz, he, for many years, said to his students, stay away from drugs, stay away from alcohol, meditate, breathe deeply, feel the spirit, feel the force. You know, he borrowed from Star Wars too, not just Kermit the Frog. And so he would do these things, but he'd say, you know, stay away from drugs, stay away from alcohol and all that sort of thing. But years before I ever met him, he had done a lot of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So when things were getting very strange in the early 1980s in my group, Rama decided to continue his experimentation with the drugs. And he one day said to me, we went out to the desert east of Los Angeles, and he said to me, I'm not doing well in the group. My aura was dark, my consciousness was terrible, and I was hurting all these people. Instead of making millions of people happy, I was hurting a lot of people, according to him. So I was upset about that. And at the same time, he was starting to say that he was like some kind of godlike figure, which I thought was really weird. But he said, you know, he called me Agni. That was my spiritual name, Agni. And he said, Agni, you're in a really horrible consciousness. You're doing really badly, but I think I know something that can help you. So I said, gee, Rama, what can help me? I'd like to get out of this rut that I'm in. I'm having a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having a sort of a conflict within myself, because on the one hand, I wanted to leave this group. On the other, I love these people. This is my friends. These were my friends. This was my community. So I had this conflict. So I was having a hard time. And he could see that. So he said, well, why don't you experiment? I think I have an idea. You don't have to, but why don't you try the power drugs? And I said, foolishly or not, I said, okay, Rama, I'll give it a try. So he used to call me his chemical experiment. So I tried some drugs, and this is a big surprise for you. I don't really write about those experiences in this 32-page graphic novel, Rama Trauma Trump. But Rama Trauma Trump, this 32-page graphic novel, is based on my nonfiction paperback book called Take Me for a Ride, Coming of Age in a Destructive Cult, which is also free on the internet. You just Google it, part of Project Gutenberg. And that has a whole chapter, Erica, called On High, all about your daddy's experiment with drugs.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, all right.
Anyway.
Where's the fact checker? It's true.
So
it actually happened.
Yeah. So then you said that, I mean, luckily you got out of it.
Eventually I did.
Which is good.
Yeah.
But how did Rama or Fred react to you leaving?
It's a really insightful question. So you may have a career in journalism. So he said to people when I left that I was mentally ill, and that the negative forces, when I say negative forces, Erica, what he would refer to as negative forces in his mind meant ghosts, spirits, naughty spirits. He said that I had been taken over by them, like in a horror movie, and that they now controlled my will. So he was not happy that I left, and I eventually left, but wanted to get back into the group at that point. So I ended up getting back into the group after I left, which is actually very common for people who are trying to leave a cult. Why is that? Well, it's because these were all my friends. This is my community. All this stuff for 7 years I believed in was right. I helped build that community.
Yeah. Are you still friends with like the people?
A lot of them. There's some of, not all, but some of my very, 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 very closest friends are people who were in that group and believed, like I believed, that we were going to make millions of people happy, because that was our dream. And we wanted to, again, to borrow from a popular metaphor, we wanted to study about the Force, like Luke Skywalker, and learn the ways of a Jedi. And that's a wonderful and beautiful thing. But you have to be a little bit careful when you do that, because there's a lot of people who would say, step right up, I can take you there. And they take you for a ride.
Yeah. So also in the book, you're kind of in a position of power, at least for part of it, like in the cult.
Yep.
Do you ever like wish you like could go back to being in a powerful position and like make changes or something?
That's a really, really good question. I was for a while considered Rama's right-hand man. The women were actually more powerful than the men, but in terms of men, I shared a house with him. And he said that I was one of 2 people of his followers who could attain full enlightenment in this lifetime. So I definitely had a position of power within his organization. That's very seductive. That's another reason why I found it difficult to leave, because I had literally thousands of people who thought that your daddy was pretty hot and very spiritual, and people looked at me like I was some kind of little mini god. Do I want that now? That's a different question or a different concept than is it seductive? Power, power is something that draws one in and sort of resonates with one's ego. And it's like, hey, I'm pretty hot, you know? Do I want that power now? That's a really profound question. I don't want that power. I would like a different type of power. What kind of power do I want? I guess I would love the kind of power where if I write a book and it has nice ideas in it, like this book, that I have the kind of power that without making money, I'm not doing this for money, without making money necessarily at all, or, getting material things back, I would like to have the kind of power that I can inspire a lot of people. So far, I've shared this PDF with maybe 100 people thus far. I'm not famous. I don't have connections in the media. Famous people are not calling me up and saying, "Hey, what's your latest bookmark?" And as such, I have a very small circle of people who I can inspire, influence, affect. If I could have more power, I would like to see that circle expanded. Just being honest. Do I want to control people's lives and have them send me money and I can get them to take drugs and then do I'm not attracted to that. At least I haven't been. I remember, Erica, when I did leave the group, I went back to college to finish my college degree at UC San Diego, University of California, San Diego. I started a group there without the cult, just me as a college student. And I started something called the Solar Energy Club. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, because a few people joined, it wasn't hugely popular, but I was like, wait a minute, I shouldn't do this because I'm going to be seduced by power. And I stopped and I was like, all right, I'm not going to start this group. I'm not going to do it. I remember having that conflict within myself. And then I thought about it for a while. And I decided, yes, I'm going to start the Solar Energy Club. And you know why? Because I realized something deep in my heart that I didn't really want to have power over other people. I didn't want to have the steep hierarchy where I'm on the top and people are down here. My favorite thing about people is we work together. And that takes me back to high school when I was editor-in-chief of the high school paper. And we all worked together. There's a community. I like that. So I decided I'm not so nervous about me being seduced by that kind of power. So I started the Solar Energy Club and I've been running ever since.
Yeah, that's all questions that I have. But
well, thank you, Erica.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you like the book?
Yeah, it was really good. And I think that a lot of people should read it because it's also helpful to understand what a cult, that cults could be anything and anyone could be in a cult and they should look out for that.
Absolutely. And as we said earlier, you're 15 years old. The artist and I, someone also of Vermont, Marcie, who lives just about an hour from here, she and I have had these discussions about who's the book for. And we just thought, starting around age 15, 16 to it could be older people really liking it. But old grouches like me. But she and I thought, well, maybe 15 to 28-year-olds. So you're at the beginning part of that. And I was just talking to Leo, who wants to make possibly a musical.
That would be really
based
cool.
on Rama, Trauma, Trump. I left the cult, and now look what happened. So I'm thrilled that you enjoyed it, got something out of it, and thank you so much for this interview.
Yeah, thank you.